Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with the story in which the supervisor harassed our OP but was defeated. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Uninterrupted break means uninterrupted. I worked as a technician for the phone company years ago. I was injured on the job, and for light duty, I was assigned to work as an operator for a month. I wasn't happy being there, and they weren't happy taking me in. One supervisor was incredibly bitchy. She wanted us to raise our hands to ask to go to the bathroom, which I refused to do. She also demanded you take your breaks at specific intervals, but you can't hang up on a customer, so if you ran into that interval, that was your problem. Being a union rep, I knew this was illegal, so I took my break 5 minutes late because the customer ran over. 10 minutes into my 15-minute break, she came out to tell me I had to go back to work. I explained what happened and stated she couldn't cut our break short because work ran over. She angrily huffed, "Fine, be back in 5 minutes." I then pointed to the contract on the table and showed her the words, "Uninterrupted break." She began fuming. I came back 15 minutes after that. And our next story, the friendly next-door neighbors. 2 summers ago, my family was blessed with a nice family moving in next door to us. The husband and wife, let's call them Chris and Rachel, have 2 young neighbors, 8 and 10 when they moved in, and our family were instant friends. Being away from home, I was always greeted by the children and had a good relationship with both of the parents. Our 2 houses were inseparable. Rarely did days go by where we didn't see each other. Boy, can things change on a dime. The neighbors still had possession of their previous home, which they were renting to another family, and Rachel was always the one in charge of the mortgages and general finances. Slightly after a year and a half of living in the new house, Chris was very surprised to learn that the house they were renting was foreclosed on. After what I can only assume was an aggressive argument, the husband was kicked out and moved in with his friend. Don't be too worried about Rachel being a single mother, though, as it didn't even take a week before the man she was having an affair with, another close neighbor and his 3 kids. It's unknown how long they were together, but it's been at least 6 months. Since the wife knew my family was not on her side, she immediately cut contact, not even letting the kids say hi to me when I was in town. Most of the next several months were not very eventful to the story, but does explain why things are the way they are. The husband never pushed for anything in court because he was scared of what would happen to him if he pushed for custody, money, etc. Rachel was physically abusive and has some shady connections. When living together, the wife and her boyfriend had many physical altercations to the point where DCFS didn't allow the kids to live there. The children come back and the boyfriend is no longer legally able to live with Rachel. However, he just decides to stay and is rarely seen on the property. One day, my sister, 18, and her boyfriend at the time were arguing on the front lawn, and the neighbor decides to step in. Probably a dumb move. One day, my sister, 18, and her boyfriend at the time were arguing on the front lawn, and the neighbor decides to step in. Probably a dumb move by my sis, but whatever. Within seconds of the hag crossing the property line, my mother, Nan, was there to have her daughter's back. "Nan, what are you doing here? You have no right to talk to my daughter like this." "Rachel, you need to learn how to properly parent your kids. Your F-up daughter is making a scene." While Nan started to turn away to walk inside, thinking this stupid argument was over, she was stopped by Rachel pulling her by the hair. Once Nan was turned around, she was greeted with a fist to the face, leaving a puffy purple lip for weeks. Somebody walking nearby alerted the police who, knowing the address, promptly arrived at the scene. Unfortunately, since Rachel had friends who swore Nan threw a punch at her too, all charges were dropped. When Nan went to work the next day, she worked at the elementary school, Rachel's older kid sparked a conversation with Nan about her lip. That was all it took for Rachel to have her chance as she complained to the school that an employee was talking to my child about private affairs. Due to Nan's good standing, her boss decided to move her to another school instead of any disciplinary action. Rachel still believes she successfully got Nan fired. Time passes, and soon enough, the boyfriend's probationary period is up, and he's allowed to move back in. The day after the D-bag is officially living there again, guess who has to be called to the house? Knowing that another police intervention would have kicked him out again, the boyfriend leaves before the police arrive. In order to cover her trail, Rachel used the child's phone to text DCFS, "Help, Daddy's beating up Mommy." Police immediately arrest Chris and hold him overnight as he'd been at home and had no alibi. Rachel then used this instance to obtain an order of protection against Chris. In case you're unaware, an order of protection is basically a restraining order that's granted faster. In order to protect his friend from his demon wife, Chris's friend/roommate installed security cameras around their house, recording all data of persons entering or leaving the property. While installing the cameras, the friend crafted a master plan to help Chris in his time of need. One security camera was not installed on that house, as it could be used for a much better purpose. My family owns a tow-behind camper which sits on the side of the driveway near the neighbors and has a window with perfect vision over their driveway. Note, it's 100% legal in Illinois to install a security camera looking, not listening, at somebody's property as long as it's installed on your own. 3 days pass, another false allegation arises from Rachel. This time, apparently, Chris had broken into her house and forced her to give him oral sex. After reviewing the footage of the house, Chris never left, and the video footage of him sleeping at that time, yes, he started recording himself sleeping, the detectives were quick to realize who the real antagonist of the case was. It was at this time that the detectives became aware of the camera on my neighbor's house. 2 more accusations came from the lying bee the next week, both of which the detectives looked into without much surprise from the outcome. Several days later, the husband and his friend meet with Rachel and her boyfriend at their court date. Not only is Rachel continuing to push false accusations, her boyfriend decided that it'd be a good idea to follow them up with threatening glances and whispering threats. Once the court session moves forward, the tables turn, and the detectives announce they are no longer looking at the husband, but Rachel for accusing him of crimes that never occurred. Rachel hears this and immediately leaves the courtroom with her boyfriend. After hearing of this surprise, the neighbors finally went home to see why their world was crashing around them, the security camera 10 feet away from their parked cars. And our last story. A military man with a disability versus entitled mom. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and my MOS was a corpsman. For background, a corpsman usually serves as medical building/hospital or sick bay support staff, depending on if assigned to a base or a ship. A few of us get called up to serve as field medics for Marines. I was one of these and had served in Afghanistan and Iraq attached to various Ricky recon units. Despite the best efforts to ensure our safety, I'd lost my lower right leg during a training exercise accident in 2010. This happened after my recovery and medical discharge was completed, and I was on a Greyhound on my way back home. Characters. Me, a salty ex-sailor whose mentors/senior NCOs had mouths that would make the devil blush. I'll self-censor/use acronyms. EM, entitled B of a mom, about 24. EK1, little son, about age 7. EK2, little daughter, about age 5. PGF, peeved grandfather. So on my way home, leaving from the Greyhound station back home at 12 a.m. on July 1st, 2010, I'm wearing my combat boots, jean shorts, try being in the South in long pants in the dead of summer. Despite the fact that the area around my brand new prosthetics pin was still very sore, my old unit shirt, my dog tags visible, and my Marine Desert BDU hat. I first see her when boarding the bus first, but she's giving me the stink eye. Greyhound was so nice to help me as I was still using a crutch to help balance. I take a seat in the back of the bus, and the staff tells me to stretch out if I want to. There were going to be entitled mom's family and one other couple. When I see her boarding, I can hear EM declaring as loudly as she could that her dad would only be a moment and that he was a veteran that got messed up by Agent Orange in Vietnam and it takes him a little long in the restroom. Earlier, I'd talked to a guy in the smoking area. He was a vet and we'd compared tattoos and talked about how he, his unwed daughter, and 2 brats were going to the same city I was to visit his sister for the 4th. I, wanting to help a fellow vet, decided to speak up and confirm it was true. Mistake number 1. When she sees me there in the 3-seater back row and next to the travel toilet, she storms up and demands that I give up the seat to her and her little foobar kid since her father was a disabled vet. I point back to the rest of the empty bus and smile. Ma'am, I'm a newly discharged disabled... That was as far as I got. The bee rudely interrupts me. Bullcrap, you're just some cripple. The service doesn't let cripples in. Take off all that crap and quit pretending. At that point, I pull out my DD-214 and point to where it said I lost my lower leg in a training accident. As the bus driver reaches us to pull her aside and tell her to get off the bus, I motion for his attention and ask that she just get stuck up front with her kids because, look out for the old man. After he's boarded, he's told what happened and cusses her out before going back to apologize to me before offering me a swig from his little flask. Eventually, I fall asleep. As the sun's starting to rise, I wake up to pain that felt like someone had hooked the prosthetic pen to it and was speeding off. I jerk myself awake, and there's EK 1 and 2, both pulling on it, trying to get it off me. I pop up screaming, "Get these little mayonnaise stains!" Anyone over the age of 3 can guess the real word. The flip, the other word, off my leg. PGF's meds are making it slow to wake up, he told me, but EM was on her feet. "How dare you scream at my perfect little angel," she screamed at me. At this, the bus driver was pulling over while I was trying to get their hands off my leg. "Get your flipping," that word again, "hands off them." Me. "Then be a flipping," same word again, but 4 times the sentence, "parent and flipping make them get their grubby little mitts off my flipping leg before I flipping throw you all off this bus." EM. "You shut the flip up, you lousy lying cripple. Let them play with it. They're curious. Besides, you're just a lousy fake vet crip." At this point, she's shut up by PGF, who's removed his belt while coming up the aisle. Starting to take the belt to her butt, he literally puts her over his knee and starts spanking her. "You little shots," 3 guesses, first 2 don't count, as to the real word, "will be next if you don't leave his leg alone." They make a beeline to the front of the bus at that point. When the cops get there, he even filled out a witness statement as to what she'd pulled and helped me get her arrested. The rest of the trip, the EKs behaved, and PGF made it up to me with a lot more drinks the rest of the way. No clue what happened to the mom. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.